Hey everyone, it's Ron and Maria, back with another edition of Ask Ron.
Well, I've decided this week to let Maria answer the questions. Give them to me and I'll ask them.
I don't think that would be a good idea, Ron. I don't think they want to hear my answers.
Well, if you don't have the answer, you can make something up. All right. She refuses. Probably
I'm sorry.
Okay. All right. First question.
Our first question comes from Spencer in California.
Hey, Spencer.
I do business
By
primarily...
the way, Spencer, you know I'm coming out there and doing a 4-day event last week of the month. Make sure you learn about it if you haven't already. Again, we'll have a great boot camp out there. It's going to be in LA near the airport. Got to get that plug in, Marie.
Of course. So Spencer says, I do business primarily in California. I know in some states all closings are handled by lawyers, not third-party escrow. You mentioned in several areas to always use a closing lawyer. Mm-hmm. Why? What does the lawyer bring?
That's actually a very good question, Spencer. California, you have escrow companies. They're perfectly capable of closing deals. Throughout the rest of the country, you have title companies. There are only a few states that absolutely require a lawyer to close, like New York and New Jersey. Most people can close with a title company. However, there's a problem. If you don't have an attorney representing you, then you have nobody representing you. Your title company is not representing you, and the only thing they're responsible for is if they issue a title policy and there's an issue behind that. I want an attorney working for me, protecting me, creating documents that protect me from state and federal issues. I want an attorney that can clearly explain what we're doing to the other side, to make sure there are no misconceptions, get it all in writing so I have the evidence in my file, and trust me, one day you might find out why that's very important. And then I also want an attorney, if something were to go wrong, was part of the transaction and will represent me and defend me, and who better to defend you if somebody wants to attack you than the attorney who closed the transaction. I promise you, if you ever got to court on one of these deals, your opponent is on third base in the 9th inning with 2 outs already, because you got all the documents and the attorney is present, the judge knows it, and I'm telling you, the odds are very high in your favor. I have never lost a real estate case in my 35 years that I had an attorney represent me buying and selling. Now, when I buy for cash and sell for cash, I'm not worried about it. I mean, I don't really care, because I have no ongoing relationship with the seller or the buyer. But anytime I have an ongoing relationship, I want an attorney to close. Just do what the old guy tells you to do. Now, if I'm lease optioning a house and I'm not installing the tenant, I'm not buying it until I find the tenant, guess what? The tenant buyer pays the attorney's fee anyway, and it costs you nothing. But even if that's not the case, you want to go ahead and buy it and then lease option it later, then it's only a few $100s for the attorney. And here's another big one. Check this one out. In most states, if I do not use an attorney and I close in an escrow company or a title company, I have to buy title insurance or they can't serve me, because now they're practicing law. Now, sometimes they have an attorney on staff, especially in California, where they can override that. But they're going to push you very, very hard to buy title insurance. When I'm doing a terms deal, I don't need title insurance. I'm taking over somebody's debt. What am I insuring? The nothing I have invested in the house? Of course I want a title search, but I'm not title insurance. I'm not going to spend $1,000, $1,500, $2,000 or more to buy title insurance that I absolutely don't need. Well, if I have an attorney closing, I don't have to buy title insurance. If I close with a title company, I do have to buy it. It is cheaper to get the attorney than to buy title insurance. So all of those points make it mandatory. If you're on Planet Ron, it's mandatory. It's not an option. You get an attorney, a real estate attorney now, must be a real estate closing attorney, and you just close over and over and over with them, and pretty soon you'll have a relationship that you will almost communicate with mental telepathy. You'll learn to know each other, and the attorney will be there for you. It's a very, very, very valuable benefit for such a small investment, and that's even if you pay the attorney's fees. Gosh, that was a long answer, wasn't it?
Our next question is from Rosario in...
Wait a minute, I think he probably also wants to know, how do I find a good real estate attorney? Answer, dig deep. Get a shovel, dig deep. I got the attorney jokes, but I won't lay them all on it. How do you get an attorney out of a tree? Cut the rope? Never mind. So listen, let me just go ahead and get this out while we're doing this. How do you find a real estate attorney? Answer is, first you ask around. If you don't get the answers you like, for crying out loud, go on Google. Put in real estate closing attorney in your city. Here comes a pile of them. Now, here's what you need to ask them. I tell you, it's easy if you can get a referral from another investor, because investor-friendly attorneys are what you're looking for. You ask them the following: are you a real estate closing attorney? And when they say yes, if they say yes, okay, here's the next question, the pre-screener. All right, I buy houses sometimes on lease purchase, sometimes with owner financing, and sometimes subject to. And I usually sell them on a lease purchase. Is any of that an issue for you? If you get a yes, move on. If you get a, well, no, I do them all the time, you found your huckleberry. That's it. That's all there is to it. So when people say, I can't find a good attorney, what have you done to look? What have you done to look? You see, they got this thing called Google. It goes everywhere. And I don't know how we got along without it, but there it is, and I use it, and you should do the same thing. You don't need anything that you can't do a little bit of research and find on Google. All right, now I'll go on.
So next is Rosario from Illinois.
Rosario.
I have started my focus on empty homes, and I have 20 addresses and doing another 10. I have left notes at each property asking for a callback if they are interested in selling the home. I have not received any callbacks. Should my next move be mailing yellow letters to these addresses?
Well, first of all, you didn't tell me how you contacted them, and even if they got the message. That's the first thing you want to check. If they're vacant homes, what did you do to get to them? In these vacant home cases, number one, I leave a yellow letter on the premises in case they ever come back. I send a yellow letter by mail with forwarding address requested right on the envelope. If the post office has got their forwarding address, they'll send it, it'll come back to me. Oh, it's cost me, I don't know, 75 cents or so, which is cheap. Then you can go on websites like 411.com and a whole host of them. In fact, go to Google and put in, I want to find someone. Here comes all these sites. I can't remember the last one I used, but anyway, most of them want a little small subscription fee to get deep into the information, but a lot of times you can get the information for absolutely free. So just go on these Find People websites, and then if you can find their location, go on 411.com and see if they've got a phone number for them. And if you don't, then you can send the yellow letter to where they live with the address of the vacant house in it. Okay? If all of that fails, then you can always hire a private investigator type person. This is not really PI work, but they can locate people in a nanosecond. You can't hide today. If you're trying to hide, you can't hide today. There's no privacy left. Every move we make every single day goes into somebody's database. Problem is, we can't get into some of those databases without a PI's license. So these guys can do this search for you very inexpensively and very, very quick. You'll be surprised how fast they come back with, this person is located right here. Now you send them a letter, or if you can get their phone number, pick up the phone and call them. That's the fastest way to do it. I see I have a house on 1233 Maple Street and it's vacant, and I buy in that area. Are you interested in selling the house? And of course your next question would be, if I paid you all cash and closed quickly, what would be the least you could accept? If it's an ugly house, if it's a pretty house, then you go to the property lead sheet and get that filled out, and then you go to my new scripts and go for the terms. So when you call a seller, you're going to get the facts. Is there a mortgage on it? Is it free and clear? Is it in foreclosure or is it not? Because a lot of these houses are probably in foreclosure, sitting there vacant because this bank hasn't gotten them, so they can't put signs on them yet. Or you can also do a very quick title search in most places online. Go to your city database, your tax collector's database, and by the way, it'll tell you what it thinks is the current location of that owner. So I'd send a yellow letter from that. But it'll also, you can also, in many cases, go in and see if there's any kind of legal action on the property. And well, that'll tell you right then if it's in foreclosure. By the way, if it is in foreclosure, you're wasting your time chasing it. Do not even think about trying to contact the bank. They're not gonna talk to you. They couldn't do anything if you got them on the phone. They don't own the house. So when it goes through, a realtor will list it, and now you can go back and see if you have any interest at that time. But I want it, you're on the right track. I wanna contact the owner before it goes to sale, if it's even in foreclosure. And I can tell you, if you get good at what you're doing, chasing these vacant houses, but taking them to a conclusion and do what other people want, you're gonna get some killer deals on these properties. Oh, don't worry, you're not buying these 20 houses, but what if you only bought one of them and got $50,000 worth of free equity in it or whatever? One of those a week, pretty soon you're in Fat City. But you have to set up the system. Now, I am listening to you chasing vacant houses, but I'm concerned that you're not doing the easy business, and that's the pretty house business. If you're not doing the pretty house business, you're making a mistake. 95% of my current revenue in real estate comes from the pretty house business, not chasing ugly houses and not costly entanglements, not doing things that are a lot of work. At my age, I pick the low-hanging fruit, the easy stuff. And there are 50 times more pretty houses than there are vacant ones. Seminar over. What's next?
Next we have Reginald from West Virginia with a 3-part question.
All right.
All right. First.
I have to charge extra for the second and third part. Oh yeah.
Do I have to have money when I get the seller to sign the agreement, or can I just pay for the closing costs when my attorney does a double close?
All right. First, you should put up a $10 deposit. I'm sure you can come up with that. Just eat one less Big Mac. Well, actually, Big Macs are cheap right now, so you can get 3 Big Macs for that now. Anyway, yeah, you need an earnest money deposit. You want to make sure the seller signs that they received it on the bottom of the back of the contract, because that's your receipt. And depends on the type of deal, or the rest of that question. If you do a simultaneous close and you're paying all cash, you shouldn't have any closing cost. Whatever you agree for the seller to pay, they're paying. Whatever you agree for you to pay, you're passing that on to your buyer. You shouldn't have any closing cost. But if you did, all closing costs are not due till closing. So you don't need closing costs unless you're taking title yourself, and then you got to come up with a closing cost if in fact the seller isn't paying them. In an all cash deal, I want them to pay almost all of them, if not all of them. On a terms deal where I'm taking over somebody's debt, I got to pay them. I can't expect them to come to closing with a check on a deal where they're giving me their house if I take over their debt. So believe me, you can raise the closing costs, especially in West Virginia. They're not very high in West Virginia. And if you can't, you can get help, because that's a very small amount of money to protect a much larger check.
And next, will a double close work in the pretty house business?
All right, first of all, when you say double close, I'm assuming then you're taking title and then reselling it. That's a double close. In that case, you will have to pay the closing costs on the front end. But you should quickly get that back and more with your profit on the back end, because a double closing means you're immediately turning it around. In some states, and I don't know that West Virginia is not one of them, I don't think West Virginia have any issues with this, but if you can, of course, you want the buyer to bring in the money to cover the money that you need to pay the closing cost for the seller, or any money the seller needs. And that can be done simultaneously, as long as there's no state regulation prohibiting it. And I don't think there is in West Virginia. You'll have to check that out on your own. So, can it be done in the terms business? Actually, that's usually what we do in the terms business. When I'm buying a beautiful house in a beautiful neighborhood, I want to take title to it because I own it and I can depreciate it and I'm in total control of it, and I don't need anything from the seller. No, I don't need their permission to do anything. In my case, I take title to it and then I lease option it out. So I guess you would consider that a delayed double closing, because I have to buy it and then resell it. In my case, I resell it way down the road. So yeah, you would have to pay the closing cost that. But a simultaneous closing is when the buyer brings in the money to pay for the cost of buying it, and you're never in the middle. You never take title in a simultaneous closing. You just flip the contract, is what it amounts to. And you can do that in the pretty house business as well. We call that ACTS, ACTS, Assignment of Contracts and Terms System. So you get a contract with terms, you assign that contract to somebody who'll give you thousands of dollars to take over your position.
And last question.
Yep.
If I don't find a buyer in 90 days, does the contract become voided unless the seller is willing to give me an extension?
It does if it says in the contract you have 90 days to close. So yeah, of course, that's the whole point. That's the seller's protection. At the end of 90 days, they get to determine whether they want to move on and extend it or just kill it. And obviously, that's the only fair way to do it. If you haven't sold it in 90 days, I would suggest you may not want to renew it for another 90 days because something's wrong with the deal. So that's plenty of time, and yes, the seller has the right, and actually they don't even have to void it. It automatically expires if it says you got 90 days to close.
And that's all we have for this week.
That's all? Okay. All right. I'm going to keep telling you about the summit until you get registered. And so far, I don't see you registered. You register at RES 2018. Do it right now. We've only got a month left. And if you miss this, you're going to hate yourself for the rest of your life. This is going to be a big, exciting event. We're going to make a lot of people a lot of money just from the deals they bring. Not to mention, we get to meet Gene Simmons and give away a truck and hundreds of $1,000s worth of cash and prizes and an ongoing mountain of wealth training. By the way, I'm teaching about half of this thing, and I'm creating special classes just for this event. I don't do anywhere else. You do not want to miss this, but more importantly, we're going to roast Brian and Lynette Wolf. That alone is worth traveling all across the country to see, because we can't wait for that. In this building, everybody wants to be in on the roast. So look, make your reservations right now. The hotel is full already, but we've badgered them into extending, give us a few more rooms. Those few more rooms are going to expire in the next few days. Get registered for the summit. It's cheap. It's really cheap. And we're going to spend more on you than you're paying for it. And then immediately, when you get your confirmation, call the hotel and get you a room. I hope you get in before you have to stay in the Motel 6 down the street, if there is one, which I don't know. All right, see you next week.